you're asked to ask America what the most popular sport was, they would probably respond to you with baseball, basketball. Or you have Mike over here that would probably say football is the most popular sport. Yeah, there's a degree of truth to it. There was 98.7 million people that watched the Super Bowl. Now, if you were to ask that question on a more grand scale and say what the most popular sport in the world was, there should be only one response coming from anybody, and that would be soccer. In 2006, when the last World Cup was, there was over 715 million people who watched the final game. 7 times the amount of people that watched the Super Bowl. And then you can argue that some people like to watch Super Bowl for the commercials. All 715 million of those people were watching the soccer. Over the course of the 2006 World Cup, there was over 26.29 billion hits on each game for all the games during the tournament. So now, with that said, I would like to explain to you how the road goes to the World Cup. So how a team goes from the preliminaries to the first round of the World Cup to the knockout round of the World Cup. I've been playing soccer since I was 4 years old, so I have an appreciation and a passion for the sport, and so I would like to share that with you. And everyone should be a little bit invested in soccer, because you can go anywhere in the world and you can just meet up with anyone that's a fan, and you just have this camaraderie, and it's just internationally known, and it's just a good thing to be able to know and to talk about with someone else. So as I get started, I'm going to start with the preliminaries of the World Cup. For the 2010 World Cup that's coming up next year, they had the preliminary drawing, which was in 2007, because there's 204 nations competing for the 32 slots that are open in the World Cup. Within those 204 nations, there are 6 continental zones, being South America, North Central America, Africa, Oceania, Europe, and Asia. Okay. In each continental zone, there's a number of teams that would like to try to qualify for the World Cup, but since there's 204 nations and only 32 spots, there's only a select amount of teams that can actually go. So in South America, there are 10 participating associations. There's only 4.5 qualification slots for that zone. North America, there's 35 associations with 2.5 slots. Africa, 53, and then 5 qualification slots for them. Oceania has 10 participating associations with 0.5 qualification slots. Europe has 53 associations with 13, and Asia has 43 with 4.5. I know what you're asking yourself right now: how can a 0.5 team get qualified for the World Cup? And what's going to happen, using South America as an example, the top 4 teams will qualify to the World Cup, with that 5th team playing in a playoff game against the North Central American squad. So the top 2 teams will be qualified in North and Central America to the World Cup, and the 3rd team will go in a playoff with the South America team, and then the team who wins that playoff round will be taking up the next qualification slots. And if we have any mathematicians in the audience, if you added up all the qualification slot numbers, you notice that it comes at 31. There's 32 teams, 32 slots available, because the 32nd and final slot is always held for the host city, which in 2010 is going to be South America. So once they go through all the rigorous, and they have lots of preliminaries and qualifications, it'd be lengthy detail to go into because there's 204 teams and you're trying to weed it down all the way to 32. This is a process that takes approximately 2.5 to 3 years to whittle down. So once you have your 32 teams, you're going to move on to what the actual World Cup tournament is. It's also known as the group round. Once you have those 32 teams, they are separated into 8 groups of 4 teams, noted through Group A through Group H. 8 of the teams are seeded, which means they get ranked as far as their skill level goes. The top 8 teams will get seeded, and they'll get placed in a different group bracket so they can spread the skill of each team around. Then they'll also, how they seed them is FIFA, which is a French acronym for the Federation of International Association of Football, which organizes and puts on the tournament for international play. They have a ranking and a performance formula which they rank all the World Cup teams with. So once they have the 8 teams seeded, they put 1 of them in each slot, and then they put the rest of the teams into pots, which they do by geographical criteria, and then are selected at random into each groups, which means they kind of try to evenly mix up the teams with the Europe teams can't be in more. Two Europe teams can't be in more than two Europe teams can't be in the same bracket or same group because they usually have pretty powerhouse teams over there. And I mean, during the off season of the World Cup, you have like the English Premier League and then Italian and Spanish leagues and whatnot. So these guys are playing on a year-round basis. So each nation usually has a pretty strong team out there. So they try to limit each European team so they don't get all grouped into one group and then get knocked out and then they don't advance to the next round. So I'd like to bring your attention to Group C. It has the Netherlands, Argentina, Ivory Coast, and Serbia, Montenegro. You'll see that it has a bracket with a bunch of columns in it, and so I'm going to quickly go through and just tell you what each one means. First slot being points, which is each game that they play, they'll receive either 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, or 0 points for a loss. Each team will play the other teams once in the bracket, so they'll be playing a total of 3 games each. So that next column will be a P, it stands for games played, so each team will have a 3 next to that. And then the column to the right of that would be the W, which is the wins, which you also, like I said, get 3 points for. Then the T in the next column over will be tie or draw, and then there's an L for losses. And the next column next to that is GF, which is goals forced, which is also known as goals scored. So they keep track of all the goals that are scored in the 3 games that they play in the group stage. And the column next to that will be the goals allowed, which they also keep track of how many goals are scored on each team while they play the other 3. And then the column to the right of that is the difference. So it's the goals allowed subtracted from the goals forced. So then if you notice how Netherlands and Argentina both have the same amount of points, the far left column, the reason why Netherlands is on top is because they had a better goal difference, and that's how they decide which team would take if there's a tie between such as the Netherlands and Argentina. That's how they would determine who would take the first rank and who would take the second rank. So in each group, each team will play each other, so each team will be playing 3 games at the very least to qualify. Top 2 teams will then advance past the group round and into the knockout round. Okay, the winner of each group will get placed against the runner-up of another group, so you know how the people who won each group playing another team that won another group. So to spread it out and kind of give the benefit to the teams that are winning the group, they place them up into the round of 16, we're in a knockout round now, so it's single losses and elimination, so if you lose, your tournament's over. So the first round is the round of 16, which will whittle it down to 8 teams, which is the quarterfinals. They'll play each other, and teams that win will advance on. And then you have the semifinals, and all the way to the finals. The winners of the semifinals will go on to the finals, and then the losers of the semifinals will actually play a consolation game, and that game will determine who takes the 3rd and 4th place in the tournament. Now, if there's a tie in any of these knockout rounds, they go on to extra time, and that extra time, no goals are scored, they go into a shootout, which is arguably the most exciting part of World Cup soccer. I mean, in 2006, the final game was a shootout, and so it came down to the very last shooter. If he made it, you won the World Cup. If he missed it, then they went to another round of shootouts. But he made it, so his team won the World Cup. So I've gone over with you the 3 steps it takes to get to the World Cup finals. There you have the preliminaries first, then it goes into the group rounds, and then it goes into the knockout rounds, which will leave you with the team that wins. Hopefully, I would hope that you guys would understand this a little bit better now, and when the 2010 World Cup comes around, you have a little bit of motivation to want to go to a bar or a restaurant or someplace to just experience and enjoy the World Cup, because it's absolutely an intense experience and it's nothing else like it. Thank you.
All right, so Christina, what did you think? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.